Joining me live in the studio to kick our conversation off this afternoon, I'm delighted to be joined by Ed Gemmell, who is leader of the Climate Party, a political party. They describe themselves as the real eco-populists. Mr. Gemmell, it's great to have you in the studio. Thanks very much for coming in.
Pleasure.
What's the distinction between the Climate Party that you had, and I know you ran in the Makerfield contest,
yes,
the Makerfield by-election. What's the distinction between the Climate Party and the Green Party? Why do we need a separate Climate Party?
Well, I mean, the first thing is the Climate Party is focused on the climate and nature crisis and on the opportunities in the clean industrial revolution, and that's the entire focus. The Green Party is utterly distracted with a whole lot of other issues, is not focused on the climate and nature crisis as a main feature. They certainly were. Go back decades before, they were, and there are certainly still some good people in the Green Party who are doing it, but they're not focused. And in terms of us, it's very, very clear. We've got a mission, and then we've got a way of looking at it. And the mission is to ensure the survival of humanity and other species on the planet, and that's written into our constitution. But the method is to look at what we can do economically and industrially to increase and accelerate what we're doing in Britain for the benefit of the British economy.
So let's get to that in a second. But first of all, what's an eco-populist?
Right. Well, an eco-populist is somebody who's actually talking about the ecological disaster that's facing us, but doing it in a way that's actually giving the opportunity, the benefits that are coming for people in dealing with it better, harder and faster. And then reaching people with words, terminology and descriptions that they can really relate to. So, and then using it so it helps to solve all the other problems. And it does, because in fact, if you deal with it properly, it solves lots of other problems, including the cost of living crisis, filling your potholes and dealing with health and defence.
And a summer like this one, as we've already heard in the numbers that we've seen in these surveys, more and more people are hardening their attitudes towards climate change and the urgent need to get stuff done. Does this help you advance your cause?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I think it definitely does. I mean, I think in your introduction there, it was interesting. You were talking about we may be getting more summers like this one. No, we won't. This is the coolest summer you're now ever going to have. They're going to get hotter and hotter and hotter. And next year, when the super El Nino kicks in on top of what we've got, we could see an absolutely brutal summer next year. So the changing of attitudes is people can feel it. They're feeling it, seeing it. People now, when you go to the pub, people are going, how could anybody say the climate isn't changing? And in 99% of those cases, they're admitting that it's humanity and fossil fuels that are changing it.
And yet, as you discovered yourself, as you were walking through Leicester Square and heading towards this studio today, there are still people out there, it's just under 1 in 4, that either say they're not concerned about climate change or actually, in some cases, still deny that it exists.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, it was absolutely stunning as I walked across Leicester Square that somebody should reach out to give me a leaflet about climate change not being real and being a hoax. Absolutely extraordinary. And in fact, a well-done leaflet. I'd like to find out who's funding them, how that actually is happening on Leicester Square. But yes, I don't think though that stats, when they're saying people are unconcerned, I think there is a very legitimate concern of people that they have other things in their life which are battering them tomorrow, cost of living crisis, health issues, whatever it might be, that may be distracting them, rather than that's 24% of people saying climate change doesn't exist. I think that number has really gone down to very small numbers now.
OK, so let's get to what you want Andy Burnham in government to do to tackle this problem. What is attainable over the course of at least the first 2 or 3 years of his leadership?
Right. Well, I mean, I think it's very pertinent, actually, because at the vote count in Makerfield, so when our votes were being counted, as you said, I was a candidate there, I talked to Andy Burnham, and we talked about the clean industrial revolution, the opportunity for British leadership of it, and he promised to have a meeting with me in order to discuss it and look at how Britain could be benefiting from it. And I actually have to say I was quite surprised. So I did look him in the face and go, do you really mean we're going to have a meeting? To which he said, yes, definitely. So I'm waiting for that meeting to be organised. But what do we want Andy Burnham to do? I think the first thing is, unlike almost all prime ministers over the last 20 years, we need an industrial strategy. We need an economic and industrial strategy for this country. And if you're going to create an economic and industrial strategy, you want to be creating it based on something that's happening in the world that's growing fast. If you're filming a company, bringing out a new product, you're looking at what the latest trends are. And the two fastest growing areas in the entire world are AI and deep tech and net zero and sustainability. And the London Stock Exchange Group says that the former is growing at 17% a year and the latter at 15%. And based on figures from McKinsey's and the London Stock Exchange Group, they're going to be between them, and this is, net zero will be between 12 to 14 trillion US dollars in value by 2030. And together with AI, the two of them will be 25% of the world's economy. Now, we've got some good companies and opportunities in AI and deep tech, but we aren't going to win. America and China have got that sewn up. But in net zero and sustainability, we could win. And it's not just renewables, which everybody talks about and talks about imports from China. It's everything else as well. So it's cement, it's steel, it's transport, it's agriculture, it's finance, it's every single one of the sectors of life being brought into a decarbonised economy and not doing it by not doing stuff. So it's not growth. It's not doing what you want to be doing. It's doing more of the good stuff and ramping it up. So let's set a net zero target that's 20 years ahead of the rest of the world. Let's be the first major economy in the world to get there when everyone else is going there anyway. And let's grab 10% of that market that's going to be out there in 2030. If we did that, that would put £20 billion a week onto our economy.
The flip side to that argument is the argument that was recently advanced by former Prime Minister Tony Blair, who said we shouldn't bother with these net zero targets, really, over the short term, because it's not going to make an appreciable difference. The Chinese aren't going to even notice what we do. We need to focus on economic growth. And from his perspective, that, of course, partly means drill, baby, drill. But it also means not being obsessive about the targets that have been set. Why do you think Tony Blair's wrong?
Well, partly I think he's slightly tainted as 3/4 of the funding for his institution comes from fossil fuels. But let's leave that aside and look at just the issues. He's wrong because what he's saying is, let's chase the dragon. We've got to stop chasing the dragon, get our focus onto what's growing astronomically fast in the world, what will give us utter and complete resilience economically, security-wise, in terms of energy. We'll have funding for everything we want to do, so it even includes defence. Everything can be paid for if we get ahead, do it hard, and then open up shop and sell to the rest of the world. He is totally wrong. Now, in a very short-term scenario, you can, of course, argue about what's being done tomorrow, next month, in the next 6 months. But if we take our focus off the goal, and the goal should be massive growth of our economy, in a clean way, driven on effectively an economic and industrial pile that's growing so fast around the world, we mustn't take our eye off the ball. And all of this fossil fuel discussion is taking our eye off the ball. The next bit of it is very, very clear. We have a declining basin. It is becoming more expensive to get the oil and gas out. We are not getting tax revenues from it. Out of the last 10 years, Shell and BP have only paid a couple of years of tax. Foreign shareholders are benefiting from it, not British people. And it's not going to bring prices down. And not because of this way people say, because the international market set the price. That's not it. It's more basic than that. Shell wants to sell at a profit. BP wants to sell at a profit. They're not going to sell it to us cheap in the UK if they can sell it for more in France or in Norway or somewhere else.
Do you back the Polanski idea of forcing fossil fuel producers to pay so that the UK, for example, can acquire a fleet of firefighting aircraft and helicopters?
Well, I mean, I think it's a great idea, but it's a drop in the ocean economically. It's a great idea in terms of simply dealing with what's in front of us at the moment, you know, the wildfires that we've been facing. But it's an absolute drop in the ocean. What we should be doing in the fossil fuel industry, and it's completely balmy, we haven't been doing it, is what we do in the nuclear fuel industry. When nuclear builds, they have to then take the waste, dispose of it properly and make sure everything's safe. Whereas in the fossil fuel industry, they just dig it out of the ground and burn it and they don't do anything with it. And we now know categorically that is what is making us unsafe. So what we should be doing is making them pay or making them make sure there is no pollution from their product, just like we do with the nuclear industry.
So you are hoping for this meeting with Andy Burnham. I mean,
Yes.
The meeting is happening. I mean, there's been outreach.
There has been a lot of outreach, and there's been lots of people on his team talking about he's busy, but it'll happen. Mm-hmm. I'm waiting for the date. So when you get back from holiday, Andy, give me a call.
And do you have plans again to seek a seat in Parliament?
I think under our current political system, it's tough. and we know that. Yes, we will be standing. We had 13 candidates standing at the last general election, and it came too quick for us to get organised properly. And we endorsed about a dozen independents. We've endorsed mayoral candidates as well. We will be having a Climate Party conference coming up over the next 2 months as well, and we will be looking to get ready for the next election. And it's definitely about trying to put pressure. But our actual point of pressure is not getting to Parliament. We are, in the way of tactics, Farage 1.0. Look, and I've talked to Nigel Farage about this on his show. What we're trying to do is put pressure, get inside the tent, put pressure on, talk about this massive issue, this massive economic opportunity for Britain, and put it in front of the other politicians until they take it. After all, Nigel Farage converted the Conservative Party effectively into the Brexit Party eventually, and that's how he got his job done on Brexit, for good or for bad. But what we want to do is exactly that same strategy. And Farage has said it to me on television, you're just copying him. Yeah, we are.
In terms of forcing the agenda more directly to address climate change.
Absolutely.
Ed Gemmell, thank you so much for coming in this afternoon. Ed Gemmell is leader of the Climate Party. They describe themselves as the real eco-populists.